Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to episode 3 of Correspondent Week. And our Burnley correspondent, Tchaouna, is back. But I don't know if he's looking forward to it or not. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Ready for my biannually appearance on Correspondent Week.
Does it feel like that's what it will be?
It's hard to say either way, really, isn't it? With the track record of the promoted teams recently, I think I'm a bit glass half empty, if I'm being honest.
The fixtures are good, though, right?
Yeah, you got to play everyone at some point, so let's see what it brings.
What did you think when that fixture list come out, mate?
I didn't think it was. I don't think it was so bad. I mean, if you look at it in terms of where the teams placed last season with yourself and United, it's you know on paper not too bad, and it's probably the best time to play both of you two because you're going to be much improved later on in the season, one would think. So yeah, and we've
Uh,
had a few departures, so I think it gives us time to bed in. It's not like if we just have three easy games at the start of the season, I wouldn't be confident we'd win all three. So not that there is an easy game in Premier League these days, but
I mean, interestingly, yeah, if you add Sunderland to the mix, I suppose it feels like you're playing three teams in the opening 3 game weeks that all finished sort of like bottom six, bottom seven last year. That you're
yeah,
taking the positive outlook on it, right?
yeah, yeah. It's not like playing United of old, where under Fergie, it's a different United. We can maybe, if we can go there and get a point, that'll be fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning. Obviously, you're playing my team 3 days after we play in the Super Cup final as well. But it does put some pressure early on in that Sunderland game. It does feel like because I suppose with Tottenham, Man United, then Liverpool, that's the one where you're targeting the 3 points early on. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. We need to go into that game looking to win really, and that's the thing with the transfer window being as it is. The transfer window won't have even closed. We're probably still doing business at that point, replacing some of these players that we've lost. It's going to be key, but you've kind of got to give Parker a little bit of a free pass and say if we are rebuilding again and bedding in new players, it's going to be tough.
let's talk about some of them departures because when you came up 2 years ago, we had discussions about you arguably coming up and being weaker than the team that got promoted. Is that the case again now with James Trafford, CJ Egan Riley, and Josh Brownhill all departing?
Yeah, on the face of it, a little bit, but I think in terms of the players we'd lost last time around were real key players from loan signings, and we have learned from that with Edwards, Humphreys, Flemming. There was a few others as well that we've signed on that have all been on loan last season that we had options or obligations to buy. We let Sarmiento go because it didn't quite fit the mold. So I think we are learning, but yeah, I think Brownhill will be the biggest miss out of the three. I would feel. Whilst we know Trafford's going to turn into some a real keeper. I, I feel like that's probably easier to replace in terms of we can probably get a shot stopper because it's a different sort of position that we're going to be in this season with. We're going to face a lot more shots. We're going to need someone to command their area a lot more. So yeah, I'm happy with the money we've got for Trafford. I think the issue with the other two is they've both come for free. Um, Now Egan Riley was a real shock for last season. No one saw the season that he had, sort of coming. It came out of nowhere. But he's going to be hard to replace because he was part of that. Excuse me, part of that back line that was unbeatable for large parts of last season. Would he have made it in the Premier League because he was a little bit smaller? I don't know, but I'm sure we'd have found a place for him, whether that been sort of moving him into midfield or out at right back. Um, but yeah, some real misses in there.
That feels like a particular repeat of exactly what happened with Harwood Bellis, almost. In the sense he'd been part of a really strong backline for you when you got promoted last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's just the changing of the times, really. I think under the previous owners in the Dyche days, it was we owned all of our players. We didn't go in for loan signings at all. And if we did, they just warmed the bench. George Kevin and Kudu from your place was one that we signed and never gave him a go. I think we had a few others Drinkwater that never got a chance. So at least we're giving these players a chance, but then it's the risk and reward. And I think yeah, we've not quite got the contracts nailed down in the same way because we've just got that many players and we're just juggling. Feels weird that we've got Brun Larsen back. I thought he would have been a good one to have signed for for last season in the Championship. So he was our top scorer in the Premier League 2 seasons ago. More out of chance, really, I think, than good fortune. But yeah, I think him being back will be some addition, albeit a little bit strange.
I want to come on to focus in terms of what you might be targeting moving forward towards the end. But I think for many people who might be unfamiliar with a lot of the names in the squads, kind of want to have a run through from sort of back to front in terms of the squad and where it's at the moment. With Trafford gone, you signed Max Vies as one of the players that you have signed, a goalkeeper from Culture. Is he going to be number one, or are you looking for another goalkeeper? And I guess possibly even included in that, does he definitely start game week one, or is one of these 4.0 keepers possibly starting at Tottenham?
Yeah, I, question marks definitely. I think that they've earmarked him as saying he's definitely got the potential to be a strong number one in the next few years, but whether that's straight away, I don't know. I don't think it helped his cause yesterday that he came for one at Stoke and completely flapped it, and we got beat 1-0. So not the greatest of starts in pre-season. At the minute, it's definitely between him and Kladky. I don't think any of the others are really in contention. But we have been supposedly linked with Dubravka from Newcastle, which I feel for his experience, I feel like he could get thrown in at the deep end a little bit more likely than probably starting with Vi. So if I was to gamble and we hadn't signed a Bradker, I would say Vice, but it wouldn't be a certainty.
Dubravka is 4.0 as well. I presume the idea of starting with Vise and Hadaki as 8.5 pairing would be an absolute avoid because obviously you could be buying another goalkeeper that becomes number one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's definitely a wait and see. It's hard to say that anyone's really nailed in that position.
Who would you want to start at Tottenham as it stands?
Probably Hladky, I think, based on a little bit more experienced, a little bit older. Um, got promoted with Luton. We did a swap deal with Luton for Muric. Muric took Ipswich down. I think the intention was really to Hladky was signed as our number one for last year because everyone expected Trafford to go in the summer of last year. Um, Obviously, it was great that we kept hold of him, but it was at Hladky's sort of misfortune, really. He looked quite good in, I think, it must have been one of the earlier game weeks, maybe game week 2, I think, because Trafford came down with a cold or flu when he was miraculously available for the next game after the window had closed. Hladky looked decent. He played him in a cup game and he looked a little bit shaky, but that was a few months later, and we all know how hard it is just to come in and sort of affect the game if especially as a keeper, if you've been on the bench for months. So, yeah, I think if it was out of those two, I would probably rather see Hladky.
I guess your viewpoint at the moment is you do need another one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You did make one real shock surprise signing in England's right back, Carl Walker, one of the best right backs of the last decade or so in the Premier League. How taken aback were you by that?
Very, very. I think it was a real astute signing. I was really happy. I was sort of discussing it with my dad, and I'd said, in terms of high profile players that we've signed, we have had a Gaza and an Ian Wright, but different eras, and they were completely past it when they came to us. And I know there's been some question marks on Walker being, he's maybe lost a yard or two, but I think he's the most highest profile player we've signed, and we've just give Barnes a new year and another year on his contract, and his legs have gone. So the levels of Kyle Walker's legs going slightly to Barnes is there's levels to the game. So yeah, really chuffed.
It's
Excited
worth
to see.
saying Cole Walker's legs have gone doesn't make him like gone or slow. It's just
Yeah,
he's not quite as quick as he
yeah,
was before. And obviously, a part of his career has been reliant so much in terms of his recovery pace has got him out of trouble a lot. But he obviously brings a great deal of experience to you.
yeah. Think we're learning from mistakes of the past. I think it was it was some of what we could see as fans when we transitioned out from Dyson to Company, that we was going for real raw talent, but there wasn't that gel to really knit it together. And I think Walker has that, sort of experience to do that really with us. So yeah, really smart signing. If we could sign a few more players like him, that'd be great. And I think for newly promoted sides like us, that's the best you can really hope for, signing like him.
Is he potential captain, Carl Walker?
No, I think they've just announced they're giving it to Cullen, so I
Okay.
expect him to be the vice because we played two games simultaneously. I think it was
Yeah.
Shrewsbury and Huddersfield. Um, Cullen was captain at one and Walker was captain at the other, so I think he's taken up the vice.
What's the impact on Walker signing on Connor Roberts?
I don't know. Walker's been playing at right back in pre-season because there was some talk of us maybe moving to a back five, which was maybe just one of them sit in and one of them sit out. Um, yeah, I think it will really limit Roberts' game time. I think obviously Walker will be signed to be the number one, and I've not heard of any of them being played out of position really at pre-season. So I think that just means that Roberts is his understudy.
Roberts can cover left as well. Would I be right in saying that?
He has done in the past, yeah,
Yeah. But Walker, we certainly, he's obviously not trying you not to play. Do
yeah.
you foresee switching of system quite a bit, therefore? Then you mentioned obviously a back five. Is that something you think we could see?
I think so. I think we'd be wise to, especially in different games, different setups. Against a team like maybe we will set out differently than what we will game week two against Sunderland. I've not seen us experimenting too much in pre-season based on lineups and substitutions. Although some of them have been a little bit odd in terms of like yesterday we took a whole bench of sort of youth team and didn't really have as many first teamers there as I would expect. So whether it's been more about fitness and they're working on some of the techniques and sort of transitions in training, I don't know. But yeah, I think Parker's been known to play about five in the past. So whether we would transition back to that, I don't know.
You were obviously meant to have a game with Sheffield Wednesday behind closed doors on Saturday that got cancelled because of Wednesday's play at the moment. I read Parker saying that the squad that was kind of named for the game at Stoke, which was taking a lot of younger players to come on very late, was already
Yeah,
kind of settled. And therefore, the rest of the players played in a behind closed doors game kind of internally.
yeah,
So I wouldn't read too much into that bench specifically at Stoke. You have brought a couple of other defenders. Axel Tuanzebe will be familiar to people, having obviously been at Manchester United, was at Ipswich last year. I always felt Ipswich were better with him when he played, actually. But I guess that's another right back, and he's probably not going to start over Cole Walker.
no,
Wouldn't
no.
have
So
thought
whether he
so.
whether he plays sort of centre back instead, and we can play there as well.
Yeah, he can do. But you possibly can give us a bit of an introduction into Quilinci Hartman. I hope I've got the pronunciation correct, Jack. He's a left back, is that right?
Yep, he is quite highly rated from what people say. Featured quite a bit in pre-season. There's a good chance that he's our first choice left back. I think he gives us more attacking threat. It's just whether he gets rotated with like a Bashir Humphreys who played there last season before getting injured, who is a left-sided centre back who makes a makeshift left back. So yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch. Looks a good signing for what we paid for him as well. I think it's sort of around 10 million euro, so decent young player.
And that was another one was a problem when you come up before. You'd obviously had Ian Matson, and then Charlie Taylor suddenly ended up playing again quite
Yeah,
often in the Premier League. So that's dealt with in terms of left back. On Bashir Humphreys, who's also another player that signed a few permanently. Am I right in saying he's injured at the moment?
yeah. I think he's slowly coming back. So I think we'll expect to see him early in the season rather than sort of late on. But yeah, he picked up an injury towards the end of last season.
Okay, so with Walker and Roberts at 4.5 and every other defender in at 4.0, we are certainly guaranteed here some enablers to look from. There's one name that stands out, as a number have been mentioned, is Maxime Esteve, who's been linked, including a number of clubs, including my club, actually. He's going to stay though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just signed a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
So if he was to leave, it'd be a real shock and it'd be a big feat to get him out of there. He's the one for me. He's in my draft. I think I can't see the benefits of risking it over anyone else really. If it was between him and if you knew that Hartman was starting every week, then you could maybe make a case for Hartman potentially getting up the pitch a bit more. But I think Esteve, especially now with the defensive contributions, makes even more sense because I can't see us consistently getting attacking returns from defence. So Esteve would be the one for all of those sort of defensive contributions.
What's he like as a player for those who haven't seen him?
Solid, tall, fast. Puts his head on the line. He's a mix of like a Ben Mee and Tarkowski, but agile as well. Looking at his data for sort of last season, he was averaging just below 5 clearances a game, an interception a game and sort of just over one tackle a game, and that was when we dominated games a lot more. So I don't think we saw the best of him last season, purely with how we played. I think it suited more of an Egan Riley who could find the passes and play out from the back, whereas Esteve is, he can do that. Um, but yeah, he's a real battler. So
What
yeah,
would be in your mind as it stands, and we know you may well add, what would be ideal back four for you as it stands?
I think it'll be Walker, Esteve, Tuanzebe, and Hartman.
And if it was a five,
Um, it's tough. I think Ekdal's played quite well in pre-season, although we loaned him out last season. Um, Bayer and Humphreys will eventually come into there because I think they're both great players. But Joe Worrell as well. I think for that experience, I think if there was a back five and he's got players either side, then yeah, probably a Joe Worrell.
okay, you've got so many players there. That's something else I read that Parkwood said over the weekend was that I got the vibe from it. Like, we've got to get rid of some players here. There's too many, basically. Do any of these other players like Lucas Perez or Dequar, who had that infamous difficult game against Tottenham a couple of years ago, have they got a chance for looking here?
Absolutely not Delquar. Perez, yes, he was rotated last season between him and Humphreys, and towards the back end of the season, he did play really well. Um, but yeah, I think there's just too many question marks at left back because it'll be between Perez, Hartman, and Humphreys. With I think Humphreys and Hartman being the first choices really, and him being the fringe player. Still young, obviously, sort of his first season with us last season, so he will only get better. But yeah, I wouldn't be too confident in taking a punt with him.
Okay, so essentially, if we're investing defensively, it's Esteve, nothing else at the moment,
I would
really.
say so, yeah,
Okay.
unless you wanted to take a punt on a Walker, but for the point five, I'd be quite happy with a Steph.
He's found himself in over 10% of FPL teams at the moment, at the time of recording. He's not your most owned player. So that is Aaron Ramsey. No, not the former Arsenal player. Brother, am I right in saying, of Jacob at Aston
Yep,
Villa? Yeah,
yeah, that's
brother.
correct.
He's come in as a 4.5 million midfielder. He has over three times the ownership of any other 4.5 million midfielder at the moment. Jack, for the audio listeners, is shaking his head. Go on, mate.
I saw this the other day when I was looking because I thought, I best have a look before the pod, and I was just bemused. I was like, what on earth? He did his ACL the season, but sort of mid-season season before. We haven't seen him play a first team game for us since then. We will expect to see him at some point, but I imagine it will be a slow introduction. We've got other options, so yeah. I don't know if people are imagining that he is the Aaron Ramsey that used to play for Arsenal or something, but yeah, it would be a void from me.
Okay, fair enough. Likelihood of just minutes generally. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, we've not seen enough of him in a Burnley shirt really. He was sort of when we'd signed him, he didn't really get a look in initially. He was sort of behind Brownhill, and then he played cup games, played quite well, and then yeah, did his ACL against Arsenal. A bit indifferent, had some good games, had a really good game against United, but then had some where he just went a bit missing. Feels a bit of a luxury player that on his day he could really turn it on. Um, but yeah, excited to see more from him, but I wouldn't be going there now.
no, I suppose, I mean, the 4.5 million midfielder bracket is an absolute nightmare to try and find anybody. It looks like an absolute certain starter at the moment. Thanks, Jack. That's crossed off for a few more people. I guess he's one that if he got in the team would be interesting at that price, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we've got quite a lot of players that can play in and around those positions. For example, if we sign Broja, then Flemming, who has played as a striker for us last season, can sit deep and he'd play in that number 10 role. We've also got Hannibal there. Trezor could also play there if we see anything of him. Larsen can play there. Edwards could play there if we played this Tchaouna on the wing. There's a lot of players there and a lot of question marks. So I wouldn't be guaranteed that he would get many or if any minutes early on.
If you were had to invest in one of your 4.5 million midfielders, is Trezor then maybe even a better shout than Ramsey?
I don't think so. I
No.
don't know what's gone on there. We haven't seen him again last season for us. Initially, it seemed as though there was a bit of a falling out or that he didn't want to play for us in the Championship. But there were some rumors going around that he'd had quite a serious illness. He posted something on his Instagram where he had two scars on his sort of abdomen. So whether he's had some sort of surgery or something there, I don't know. But yeah, we haven't seen him for over a year as well. So really lacking minutes. I think Hannibal's in with a shout, but he's priced at 5, so a little bit more expensive. But in terms of the 4.5, there's not a standout where you think they might get a decent chance of minutes.
Okay. Heavy avoid then. You've got three in at 5.5. You mentioned Larsen already, so let's start with him. You said you were surprised that you didn't go back and sign him last year. Just elaborate on that.
Yeah, he was obviously it was our top scorer. Company had worked with him previously, and always said he was a little bit lost his way, and at one point he was really highly rated in as one of these European youngsters to come through, and maybe had a few injuries and fell out of favour. But he was really signed as for on loan. They didn't really want him at well, I forget where he was from. We signed that many. Yeah, so we didn't expect him to be a starter. Sort of impacted games from the bench, and in the end became our top scorer and was one of our better players towards the end of last season, at end of the season in the Premier League. He was available for around 2 or 3 million in the summer last year. Didn't go back in for him. Whether we did and he didn't want to come or what, I'm not too sure. But he felt like for all the outgoings we'd had last season, losing Odegaard, if we'd have reinvested the money into him, I thought he'd have been great in the Championship. Um, just didn't go there. So for us to go back in for him now as what feels more like a squad player than a guaranteed first starter, just felt a bit odd. I felt like if we were going in for any sort of past player, Nathan Teller would have been the one that I would have said, he looked like he was great for us, and I'd have had him back in a heartbeat. So a little bit of a strange one. I think it was more just based on availability and price, but just feels like we're stockpiling players again, and it just makes it very difficult from an FPL perspective, or even as a fan, to guess what the lineup will be.
Okay. Jaden Anthony signed permanently, also in at 5.5. He's been very highly rated, has even had links to Arsenal previously. What's his prospects like?
Yeah, good. I think he's had a bit of a shaky pre-season, but you can't really read too much into the pre-season games. Bit of a slow start for us last season, but really grew into it really towards the back end of the season. I think we touched on it last time that Edwards coming in really changed the profile of the team, and it gave Anthony sort of more freedom on his side. Um, he's worked with Parker before. I think he will likely start with him on one side and Edwards on the other. He's a real workhorse as well, which makes me feel like he will start because it's not just about the attacking contributions, which is kind of what you feel like you get with Edwards, that he's more attacking output than he is sort of for the team. Um, so yeah, happy that we've signed him. It was a decent fee for what we'd paid, really. So yeah,
Not an FPL option.
potentially. Um, he could be one of those, a bit like Harry Wilson that might go off in spells. But yeah, potentially a wait and see. He could go there as a punt, but I don't think I would.
Manuel Benson, 5.5 as well.
Didn't see. Yeah, I think he sort of came back fit, scored on his first game back. But then we had Edwards, so he's very much the same profile as Edwards and hasn't really got a look in since. I think he's one that we might potentially look to move on, whether that's loan or permanent.
Talk to me about Marcus Edwards then. I always say it with a massive sigh. Probably the most talented kid I've ever seen out of any academy team at Tottenham. Now 26. Am I going to see the real Marcus Edwards this year? I suppose I will. He's scoring the winner game week 1, isn't he, Jack?
I hope so. I really hope so. Be interesting to see because I think he'd fallen out of favour at Sporting. He wasn't match fit when he came to us, so you could tell that there was real quality in there. But I definitely don't think we saw the best of him last season. So let's see, pre-season under his belt. I think he'll start. He has to. So yeah, I really hope that we see the best of him. And he works hard and we see some real output because I think we all know he's capable. It's just whether it works in the right team. I feel like Parker will sort of has that chemistry already with this group, so I can see the players wanting it to work out for him. So yeah, here's to hoping. He's the only notable goal scorer from our pre-season as well, with two goals, one of them being a penalty. So potential that he could be on penalties as well.
Don't do it to me, Jack. Is he likely to play off the right?
Yeah, yeah, I would think so.
The concern with Marcus always is he's not his talent when he's got it. It's what he'll bring for you going the other way. And I just, while he was talking, I was thinking more about the Kyle Walker signing and that protection there on that side in terms of mass experience if Edwards was to play off the right. But you'll end up having to have such a lean defensively. Like if Marcus plays on the right for you in this league, you got to have a left winger that's definitely got to be happy to come back in and almost tuck in as well. I wonder if he would work better at this level as a 10. But his problem is as well that his output doesn't justify the means quite a lot. He's never racked up like high ceiling of goals or assists throughout his career.
Yeah, and that's the trade-off, I suppose, and that's where Flemming is that bit stronger, and against Premier League defenses, I think if we had to be a bit more physical, then Flemming sort of gives you that. So there's definitely options of bits we can rotate. I think our best 11 probably has Edwards in it, and probably also has Flemming in it, so it can give us some good balance. So yeah, here's to hoping. And sometimes it was the same with Koleosho. He had a much better season for us in the Premier League than the Championship. Sometimes you can find that a little bit more time on the ball and teams are a bit more organised. So hopefully he can work his magic and
How's he getting on Collier's show? Because I think like when my club invested in Odebear, it was him and Koleosho and Odebear were kind of seen as equals almost. Is that
yeah, we'd
not the
seen
same now?
Koleosho early doors and he'd obviously had that really unfortunate injury. I think Wolves came in for him on deadline day for a near enough £20 million bid and he just hasn't looked the same player since. And I think whether it's the system that's maybe not helped him out in the same way. I think company would have probably have found a real spot for him, and it just hasn't really worked out in the same under Parker. I feel like he probably needs a loan. He'd be one of the players that I would really want us to keep hold of. But yeah, again, I can't see him getting real minutes this season. Yeah, which is a shame really, because like you said, he looked great in that he was one of our best players the first half of the season in the Premier League under company. So yeah, a bit of a shame.
If you had a chance to see Tchaouna, yeah,
No, not yet. Only bits of clips from YouTube. He looks really fast, looks rapid. Um, hopefully not crapid. But let's see. Um,
episode 3, we made it. You signed Carl Walker, Jack, so you know what's coming.
yeah, well, he's not rapid anymore, so hopefully he's
No,
just
it's
not
true.
crap.
Am I right in saying left winger?
Yeah, yeah. So whether he's the favoured choice with Edwards on the right, don't know, but interesting to see. I think he was quite highly thought of at Lazio, but they needed the money in. And again, that they've got quite a few players in that position. So yeah, we'll see.
You're not short of options here. That's worth saying. But I think we've kind of already elaborated on it. There's a lot of beef. Now it's about finding the extra quality. I would think he's the one, Tuna, to really keep an eye on because it's the unknown quantity.
Yeah,
From all the rest of these, we kind of know what we're getting. I don't know if people are going to be interested in going, say, 5.5 for, say, Jaden Anthony, even if we do think maybe he'll start. Marcus, unfortunately, even for 5, just doesn't have the output, I don't think, for fantasy purposes to make a consideration. But therefore, if we wanted a Burnley midfielder and we're saying Ramsey's not it, are we almost looking at something more like Josh Cullen at 5?
yeah, potentially. Cullen is the safe one. He's absolutely nailed for the minutes. With Brownhill leaving, we've not really got another player in that position who's of his quality. So even if we signed another one, it'd be alongside Cullen. Um, and defensive contributions might help out with Cullen as well, getting a few points in there. Solid, he'll play every week. He'll be good for sort of bench cover if it's sort of the 5 million you're looking for and you just want something safe. But yeah, as you said, that there's a few other unknowns in there really, with Tchaouna being the one. Um,
Would we
yeah,
describe Cullen as more cultured, though? He's not like someone who's necessarily going to break up the play necessarily.
no, probably between him really, and I think Hannibal's probably also a good shout. I think he's got the chance that he could either play alongside Cullen if we're struggling for if we've not signed another out and out sort of centre mid, or he could play further up. Um, but again, he's another one that suffers from he was great on the eye last season, but didn't really get the numbers, goals or assists. So um, another one to keep an eye on.
So as it would stand now, what would you say centre midfield that Tottenham would look like if the game was happening today?
Yeah, I think it would likely be Cullen and Laurent or Cullen and Hannibal. I think Cullen and Laurent is the more solid, um, but playing Cullen and Hannibal gives you the option to play someone else in front if you've got quite a few wingers in there.
So we're looking at probably a 4-2-3-1, but then I guess
Yeah,
for a fixture like Tottenham away, it might be more like a 5-4-1, maybe.
yeah,
Okay. Talk to me about Zian Fleming.
yeah, really good. Was yeah was our best striker last season, although not signed as a striker, was signed as a 10 really. Um, he's one I think probably can make it in the Premier League. I think he's strong, he's clinical. Um, he'll definitely get the minutes for us. I think he's the one where he can sort of fit in a few positions. So yeah, interesting to see what happens with him. I think as things stand as a striker, he's the number one really. Whether or not Armando Broja changes that.
Yeah, big links at the time of recording. We are recording on Sunday that Breuer is heading your way. Thoughts on that?
Good signing. It's sort of divided the fan base a little bit. It's tough. What do you expect for a club like us? We're not going to sign a guaranteed Premier League goal scorer. I think if we can get his injury record back on track, then there's definitely a player in there. He looked really good that sort of season at Southampton. Um, so yeah, I personally am happy for it and would welcome it, but there is some reservations, I guess. But like I said, I think that just comes with the tag of being the being the bottom end of the league.
Yeah, he looked absolutely fantastic when he had the loan at Southampton, but through injuries and other issues, not really kicked on since then. Would you expect, you mentioned earlier about maybe Fleming dropping into a deeper role, with perhaps then Breuer at the nine? Is that what you envisage?
Yeah, I think if Broja was to start every week, I don't think we'd play two out and out strikers. So if it was him and Fleming would drop deep.
For those wondering, Armando Broja has not been given a price by FPL Towers yet. So there's no chance of this being a 4.5 because he moves to you. There's no chance they price him up that way. I suspect they'd put him in at 5.5 with Fleming. I
I
would
would
have
have thought so.
thought, yeah. Amdouni and Foster in at 5. Likely to get minutes regularly or not?
Amdouni's done his ACL in training, so no, a no
No.
for him. Um, Foster's a real tricky one again. Real minutes risk. When it's his day, he's great. We've just not seen him on his day often enough. Had unfortunate mental health issues as well. Seemingly back on track, but couldn't quite sort of nail his place down in the team towards the back end of last season. Only got a handful of goals really, which was a real shame because you thought he could have gone down and comfortably got into double figures. You were sort of looking at him thinking, could he have got into the sort of 20s? And it was Brownhill that stood up to be the man alongside Fleming really for us in terms of goal scorers. So yeah, real minutes risk. I would say Fleming is more safe than a Foster, but
Real
Foster will
shame.
get some minutes.
Yeah, real shame with Foster because he actually started well in the Premier League
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and then obviously, as you said, had to miss time due to mental health issues. There's two 4.5 million forwards. Ashley Barnes somehow has found his way back. I know he's probably your most iconic and favourite ever player, Jack. And also Michael Obafemi, who's a little bit of a tank, is also 4.5. You really said Barnes's legs have gone. Did he ever have them, Jack?
He didn't have much of them, so when they have gone, yeah, they've completely gone. No, I think this is us learning from the mistakes of company. Really, it was we should never have got rid of him sort of 2 years ago. I think we've tried to right the wrongs of that. I think he's more there for the dressing room really than anything. Um, whether he'll come on against, he's had beef in the past with Arsenal, whether he'll come on in the last 5 minutes just to really rile them up if we're 1-0 up or something like that, which is a big if. But yeah, I think he's got the hold up plays. He can play dirty. He can win you a few fouls. So if he can earn his money, then it will have done well.
He's outstanding at that side of his game, actually, in terms of winning free kicks for the team and bringing others into play. Obafemi,
No, I think he'll get moved on. I think he really struggled out on loan last season. He's another player that we stockpile for absolutely no reason.
okay. What needs strengthening here most?
Centre mid would be the one. Um, now there's no Brownhill. Um, some people have been saying centre back, but it involves moving players on. I think Worrell was unfortunate at the time when he got his injury last season, which sort of made the way for Egan Riley, but he was signed as number one, and I'm sure he can do a job. So yeah, I think if we get Broja in, then yeah, probably just centre mid would be the number one, and I think we're still looking elsewhere.
Okay. So is there money to spend or not?
We've been told that the Trafford money will get reinvested amongst a couple of positions, so I envisage that striker, goalkeeper, and centre mid would be
So you're
my
probably looking
understanding.
in brackets of sort of like 10 million
Yeah,
per player, roughly, you think.
yeah,
So I guess there's obviously been a bit of an outlay and many of these loans have been turned into permanent, but you're probably looking at the others that come in. I mean, Sunderland are spending, aren't they?
yeah, yeah.
Ha-
I
ha-
mean, we spent quite a bit on with Walker's wages as well. There'll be quite a lot on there. But yeah, it is a little bit daunting when the teams around us are doing that. But we spent big money under company, and that got us absolutely nowhere. So will not be as pretty as what it was under company. But was it really pretty as a home fan? You didn't enjoy getting physically battered in every area of the pitch. I think we'll try and be solid. It won't work in every game. It didn't under the Dyche days, but I think we'll look to be more solid. Um, hopefully it can work out. But I'm not too concerned that we're not spending too much money. We've got enough players in there, and there's definitely more we can get out of some of them. Like we've never seen Trezor or Ramsey at the best. Foster, there's a player in there that can come. So if we can have a couple, even just like what Egan Riley was for us last season, that can just sort of cement their way into the team and hit a bit of form, then we might be okay.
For those who maybe didn't listen to the pod we did with Ed, our Leeds correspondent, when the season came to an end in the championship, how much confidence do you take from that incredible defensive record last year?
Yeah, I think we did talk and say that we'd sort of outperformed a lot of our numbers on there. But yeah, you can definitely take some of that going forward in terms of the mentality. Obviously, it's a shame that we've lost two out of that back five already, in Trafford and Egan Riley. But yeah, hopefully we can get some other replacements in there. Listen, it's Parker's game. He's not going to be as attacking as what Leeds are, which having seen us under company, that season scarred me for life. That was, we went from the best season to literally the worst season. So I'm more excited for a season under Parker with sort of some of the signings in like a Walker and Tuanzebe is solid. It's not going for an absolutely unheard of player that we're trying to bed in. And Dubravka gives me some confidence as well. Broja knows the league. If we can keep him fit, obviously there's a lot of if buts and maybes, and you need a bit of luck to stay up, and even more so now that the three teams seem to be coming up and going back down every year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure neutrals kind of hope that that comes to an end. Um, you mentioned you're looking forward to this maybe more than the year with company, but when you came up with company, we were talking bullish about you being the best of the three that come up. And I asked you the infamous question of whether you thought you'd finish close to the sixth or 17th. And I won't repeat what your answer was, but there's no need for me to answer that question, ask that question this time. It doesn't feel.
Yeah, it's. I think after that season and us getting carried away, and I'm usually pretty grounded. It's unlike me to get so carried away, but that season under company, we were so much better than everyone in the championship, and we know there's a gulf between the championship and the Premier League, but yeah, we didn't realize we'd got so so cut adrift really. Um, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it a lot more now. I think having had that season under company, I think I just maybe look at like a Sunderland and a Leeds and think, are they a little bit more on that journey, being a little bit more naive and maybe trying to play a different style of football? On the flip side, though, you look at it and go, Jack is such a good signing for Sunderland. They've invested well. Um, I don't think there's a real standout between any of the three. Um, that looks like they're going to do the best. I think, looking back at Luton a couple of seasons ago, they were the one that you'd said, oh, they'll comfortably finish
Yeah.
bottom out of the three of us, and they were significantly better than both of us and Sheffield United. So it's hard to tell. I think hopefully we're learning from some of our mistakes. My issue has been that we've signed a lot of these players that have then moved on, and we're just in this constant cycle of signing players. So, I think a Broja's fine. I'm happy with him if we can keep him fit, but I don't want to sign a Broja if he just goes at the end of the season, because it's just we have to keep repeating this cycle. And I think the owners quite like to go and find a hidden gem and make some money on them, which is fine. But for all the ones we've made money on, we've got a load more sitting there stockpiling. So
It's worth saying, I think the team feels more experienced than it did 2 years ago.
yeah, absolutely. Even like an Esteve, he's pretty inexperienced in terms of the Premier League, but he played the back half last season, the last time we were in the Premier League, sorry, and he looked solid even then. Obviously Walker brings an abundance of experience, so yeah, it feels like there is a lot more experience in there, and whilst we've got the blend has got better between youth and experience, so I think that for me lends it to be more exciting because I think it gives us more of a chance.
All right, go on then to finish up. Let's go back to front. Reminder, what do you think as it stands will be team at Tottenham?
Okay, I will go Vice, Walker, Esteve, Tuanzebe, Hartman, Cullen and Lauren in the middle, with Hannibal playing further forward, Edwards and Anthony with Flemming up front. Which I think if Broja and Dubravka sign, then it would look slightly different.
How many of them 11 likely to be in your FPL team, mate?
Um, just Esteve at the moment,
How many Tottenham players do you think be in your FPL team?
possibly two, maybe three.
Okay. I shan't ask you to name them. I'll make Ricky Saunders do that later in the week. Do you think you stay up, Jack?
I can't confidently say yes, based on sort of the recent history, and I can't comfortably name three worse teams than us. It'll be close. I'd like to think we will, but I'm not overly confident.
I suppose what you want to say, I mean, obviously you want to stay up, but you don't want it to be like it was 2 years ago.
No, if we can take it to the line and make some progress on the pitch, then that's a bonus. And if we can sort of keep some of these players, listen, if we go down and keep the core of our squad and keep the manager, then there's a good chance we come straight back up. I just hate this constant revolving door of yeah, and I think it's particularly frustrating to look at where we were under Dyche and getting into Europe. At the teams now that have broken into Europe, like your Brightons and your Bournemouths just look really solid. They look, they don't ever look in danger of going down. I think the only one you can even slightly look at is maybe like a Brentford, purely based on their outgoings and losing the manager. But even then, they still look comfortably better than us. So we'll wait
Yeah,
and
I
see.
mean, they're a real unknown. A few people mentioned West Ham, Wolves. It is really tough to foresee the 17 that have stayed. How many of them will actually be involved? No doubt someone will be, though. I wish you the very best of luck from game week 2 onwards, Jack. And I very much look forward to Turf Moor in January because I've never had any escapades with bad weather around Turf Moor. Jack, anything you want to plug before we finish up, mate?
No, just at Turfy Topper on Twitter, or X as it's known now.
Good man, top man, Jack. Good luck for the season, my friend. Rory McLaughlin Dowd is next up on Correspondent Week talking about Crystal Palace. Cue music, please, man child.